smile. Yay! I can imagine. It is, yeah, later in the day. It's almost over. It's pretty warm in here for the viewers at home. You're probably, comfortable in your own seat whenever you're watching this back, but it's pretty warm here. But you're all here, and I really appreciate that, so thank you so much. So, who hasn't had enough of AI yet? Yay! Oh, come on. You got to try better than this. All right, yeah. So today we're going to see how we can incorporate AI into your own apps. And I'm going to show it with .NET MAUI, but everything that I show here today can be used with, any type of .NET project that you are familiar with, that you love working with. Because the implementation is not super important, right? I'm just going to show you like how easy it is to do, how to do it. But of course, mobile apps specifically, which is the thing that you can build with .NET MAUI, are very suited for everything that I'm going to show you here today. We'll learn all about that. Now, why do I love .NET MAUI? My name is Gerald. I'm from the Netherlands, so it's not that far. Actually, I have to run out right after this to catch a flight back home. And I work there for Microsoft remotely on the .NET MAUI team, right? I'm a software developer there. You can find me in all these places if you want. If you have any questions later, find me on my email or whatever. And I also do something on YouTube, so like and subscribe. That's what I'm supposed to say, I guess. I do not necessarily want to compare myself to all these great names, but like every big superhero or historical figure, I have a little secret. I have a weakness. So I have a secret to share with you, and this is a little bit of a personal moment here, because are there any people from like competing products .NET? Are you from Google? Are you from anything else that might want to kill me? Because after this you can, and it's not like as cool as Superman with kryptonite, right? That is one of the things, or maybe I'm not the Death Star, lucky, I guess, with the thermal exhaust port, right? Or I'm not Achilles' heel, but actually my weakness is this. Oh, sorry. There it is. Sesame seeds? Yeah, I'm pretty allergic to sesame seeds. And this is always, I don't know why, this is apparently something that is very funny to people. Because my friends and my speaker friends and whatever, it's always kind of like the running gag. Like, it's always like, oh, watch out for sesame seeds. Those things actually kill me, okay? So it's not funny. But then I go to places like this, Denmark, and actually Danish is pretty... Who here's from Denmark? Not that many people. Where are the other people from? All right, anyway, for after the session. Then I go to these places, and actually Danish is pretty similar to Dutch. I'm constantly like, I hear Dutch, and then I go there, and it's like, boo, 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 boo. I don't know, sorry, I don't mean to disrespect you, but it sounds very similar to Dutch. But it's actually not. But I go to these places, conferences, where I don't necessarily know the language, so it's always kind of like a struggle, a challenge to be like, oh, what is the sesame? What is, what do I need to look out for? Allergies, those kinds of things. So I thought like, hey, instead of building the gazillions to-do app that doesn't really do anything, I'm going to build an app that actually matters and not kind of like hard code all the words and variations in every language for Sesame, but I'm going to, there's an app for that, there's an AI for that, right? That's kind of like the new catchphrase now, I guess. And how are we going to do that? Well, whenever we kind of like talk about using AI, right? You've probably seen that all day throughout the day. Then we're talking a lot about developer productiveness, right? About making you more productive. Who's not a developer here? Yeah, I need to get you up a little bit, so I'm going to do some exercises with getting your hands up, okay? And I love that. I have never been more productive with Copilot with all the AI usage, right? I've not written a single line of code since months. I've not seen the inside of Visual Studio for a long, long time. Actually, for this demo is one of the first times since a while. And people get sad whenever I say that because, I love writing code. That's a different session, all right? Different discussion. But focus on the things that you like. If that's writing code, just pass off the test to Copilot, right? It loves that. Actually, it has no feeling, so it doesn't care. Just pass off the stuff that you don't like to Copilot. But now, we're like agentic engineers, right? So being more productive, whether that's in Copilot chat, doing the whole GitHub Copilot app, and everything in between that, right? So now we have kind of like all the ingredients there. We have like infuse AI in your .NET apps. Like I said, hey, you can do that in the cloud. You can do that in your web app. You can do that on your mobile app. In gaming, I've never really seen anything in gaming. I guess like it's coming. It's coming. Don't worry about it. But that might be fun with all the applications there. Then of course you have Aspire to build it all together. Who's using Aspire here? All right. Should be more. Which is really cool. Like, hey, you can build, test, and even for your .NET MAUI app, right? We've built a extension for .NET MAUI as well, so you can hook up your mobile device for that and inspect all the telemetry coming from that as well, and the networking information, which is really cool. And then, of course, like we have all the tooling, right? The tooling is built right into Visual Studio Code. I guess I don't have to tell you because whenever you open something, there is Sparkles, and Sparkles is now a universal sign for everything AI, right? So whenever there's Sparkles on there, you know it's AI powered. My demo does not have Sparkles. I just realized that. I should fix that. And then inside of the GitHub, kind of like tooling, GitHub web interface, like it's everywhere, right? It's crazy. It's amazing. But why not stop and think about how we can use that AI to deliver that same kind of value also to our end users, right? Who's building mobile apps, web apps? Okay, cool. Who's already incorporating AI in their apps for their end users using some kind of okay. Cool. Because there's lots of stuff, and this is like I'm only going to touch the surface with this, right? Like the sky is the limit with all the AI stuff. You can come up with all kinds of crazy things. But a couple of the things, like, hey, it changes the way we build applications to begin with, right? You can do crazy personalization with this. Kind of like the general rule, I don't really talk about this as much in this session. Basically, responsible AI, I have a slide on that. But one of the rules is just don't be creepy. Right? You can get really creepy with this stuff really fast. Don't be creepy. That's kind of like the ground rule. But personalization, you can do all kinds of personalization stuff, right? You can get all kinds of details over whatever, depending on the application is that you have, start building up all the kind of like the habits of the person, what they are, the age they are. If you've been talking to kind of like a co-pilot, or I'm using Claude on my personal device, and it will now have a memory, and at some point, I'm using it for everything, right? Like, so at some point I was like, hey, you're now my personal trainer, you're going to, watch me for my workouts and advise me for food and whatever, like all the good stuff. He's really tough, right? Like, so he's on my case. And then at some point, because of the previous conversations, we're more technical, right? Like we're more like, hey, help me prepare this presentation, do this thing, come up with a crazy cool app idea so that I don't have to go to conferences in Denmark and stand on the stage, right? So all these cool things, and based on that, it estimated like, oh, you're somewhere between 30 and 40 or something. So it already started to kind of like get in there and be like, oh, I'm going to make some assumptions and profile you a little bit and know who you are and what you do. Which, again, don't get creepy, right? There's so many details that you can kind of like use, but it can also be very powerful, right? Because now when I was working on my workout schedule, it could be like, oh, I know kind of like, hey, you're a white guy from the Netherlands between 30 and 40, which is pretty accurate. And I can give you a good advice about this, right? That's also where it kind of like gets dangerous and sensitive. Like if you're going to put your real personal stuff in there, it's going to be fun because this is going to happen, that one of these things get hacked and you can see all the conversations and the prompts that people have been putting in there. So that's going to be fun. But it can be very useful for these things as well. And context awareness, right? So if I'm now here in the demo that we're going to see and I'm looking for food, it can take into account, hey, what are the chances that there is going to be sesame in this place, right? Maybe in Denmark, sesame is banned and we don't do that. Then I'm going to move here, okay? But maybe if you go to kind of like more Asian countries, then it's going to be like, well, there is a good risk that, they put sesame over everything. So you might want to watch out there. And then that's just one example, right? You can put that context into everything, like based on where you are, based on who you are, based on, I don't know, all kinds of things. And then multimodal interaction, right? Not multi-model, so not different models, not Claude, not GPT, not those things. Multimodal, so kind of like the ways that you interact with it. Who's talking to their phone for whatever, like, hey, for WhatsApp, sending app messages, talking to Claude, talking to... It's not too bad. I'm one of those people who is very awkward with that. I don't know, it makes me uncomfortable talking to my phone. But then I go and see young people go, now I feel old. Going young people over the street and talking to their phones, and I'm like, why? Why are you doing that? Why are you not texting? I'm like, whenever someone calls me, it's like, you need to be dying, okay? If you're calling me, something needs to be up. Otherwise, send me a text and I can ignore you. That's how it works. No, but multimodal interaction, right? So new ways to kind of like interact. And the AI is great for that. You can just send a picture, take a picture, send it, and it can see the things on there. It can describe to you what you can see. It can translate things. Or you can talk to it, right? I will say I am coming to the point where if I do talk to Claude, kind of like on the phone, and I want to do this long prompt, and I'm like, oh, this takes too long to type, then I was like, sometimes, not in public, but in private, I will kind of like talk to it. But there is all this crazy cool input. It has been around forever, right? But I feel it never really took off because you never really could do anything with it, especially with the voice thing. Like, if you would talk to Siri, today, who's iPhone user? Yeah. Who's Apple user? Boo. No, I'm kidding. I love all of you. If you talk to Siri right now, it's like super bad, right? Like you need to state the exact thing that it kind of like expects. That was the AI before times. Otherwise, it will get confused, right? So that's why I don't think it really took off. But if we can get that right, I think there is great opportunity there, right? Like I have all these kinds of like home assistants, the voice assistants at home, and if I can talk to them and actually in a natural way, I would do that all the time. Actually, this is kind of ironic. I kind of like figured that out right now, that I don't talk to my phone, but then I have all these home speakers at home that I do talk to. Anyway, so yeah, and especially mobile devices have all these ways to build context, right? You can get the location, like even if it doesn't necessarily have a GPS chip or whatever, it will have a way to figure out your location, right? Maybe it has a SIM card in there and it can triangulate where you are. So it has all these ways to kind of like know where you are, the connection to the internet, et cetera, et cetera. Your calendar, right? There it's starting to get sensitive, but if you can hook up your calendar, there might be use cases for it, and it will know like, oh, I need to go travel to Denmark to do this crazy cool conference for the people that stick around until the end of the day on the second day and join my session. So I need to go there, and what do I need to do to prepare? You need to start packing. You need to check into your flight. You need to do all these things, right? If it knows that, it can start helping me with all of that. It can see what's coming up. It can also put things in there, right? Whenever you're like, hey, you need to start preparing for things. Maybe now is a good time. 5 minutes before my session, maybe you need to know what you're talking about. Context, right? Again, starts to get sensitive, but it knows like who's there, who to reach for what. Memory, that's kind of like the thing that I was talking about earlier with Claude, right? And you can see that more and more. I think also actually in GitHub, for the more technical sense, it will start building up a memory of like what you've asked before and try to extract from that what are the things that are a topic for you, that what are a theme for you apparently. And you can look into it, right? And you can be like, no. Don't do that. I don't know. I was talking to one of the Copilot things about a birthday gift for a friend, and that was like a big prominent thing that it holds in memory. And I was like, nah, like I get why you're saying it, but that's not really. Don't remember that. That's not necessary. So you can just talk to it, ask it. You can look into it, ask it to kind of like remove it, and then all the sensors, right? Like moving sensors, geolocation, even with like the brightness or whatever, like. I'm totally blanking out on the word, but it can kind of like see how much light there is, yes or no. It can switch to dark mode automatically, do all these things. And then platform specifics. Oh, the ambient light, that's kind of like what I'm getting at, I guess, biometric. So again, it's not necessarily about .NET MAUI, but for the people who do not know what .NET MAUI is, who does not know what .NET MAUI is, awesome. We are doing a great job, everyone. Let the camera state, everyone knew what it was. Amazing. Everyone is using it too. Yeah. Oh, you're making. No. Okay. Who is actually building a .NET MAUI app right now? Yeah. Good. Cool. .NET MAUI, .NET Multi-Platform App UI, and the P is lowercase because else it would have been really awkward. But yeah, that's our offering for building cross-platform apps for WinUI, macOS, iOS, Android, based on C# and .NET. Now there's always the question, when will you support Linux? We finally got you. You don't need to ask it anymore. We've got a Linux backend as well as a pre-release in our experimental labs thing. No applause? All right, that's all right. That's all right. You've been asking it for years and no applause, but that's fine. So what does that do? Basically, all the top thing, that is where you want to spend your time, right? That's your multi-billion-dollar idea. I don't know, Tinder for cats, something like that. And that's the thing that you want to focus on, right? That's the business logic. That is the idea that you want to work on. All the rest is just something, some tool that kind of like helps you get there, right? So, and that's .NET MAUI, hopefully. But for the rest of the concepts, it will work for other things as well. .NET MAUI, we have this great abstraction layer, so we will take care of all the hard work for you. We basically build wrappers for everything on Android, everything on iOS. Windows was easy, right? We already got that. And then we have controls, we have all these device APIs, and then underlying we have, like I said, the wrappers for Android, iOS, Mac Catalyst, and then WinUI we kind of like get for free because that was C# and .NET anyway, right? And then the kind of like thing to add, there was a nice transition here, I'm not sure where it went, is that we now also have Microsoft Extensions AI, which is not specific to MAUI at all, but you can use it with MAUI, right? And we'll get to that in a little bit, but that will allow you to kind of like, hey, have all the greatness of the AI power very easily to be added to your .NET apps, .NET MAUI apps, and you can start using it. So very simply put, what we do is like, hey, on iOS you have a UI activity indicator, on Android you have a progress bar. Thank you, Android. That's not a bar, it's a circle. One of the many reasons why I prefer iOS over Android. Let's put it like that. And then what we do is kind of like, hey, put the abstraction layer on top of it, which we call the activity indicator in this case. And then depending on the platform that you're running on, we translate that to the iOS UI activity indicator and the progress bar on Android, because that's the paradigm that .NET MAUI is taking. Like whatever is available on the OS, whatever is implemented in the native operating system, that is how it should look and feel on that platform. So that's what we are going to offer you, right? If you want to stay within the .NET platform, but you're like, no, I want to draw everything because everything needs to look pixel perfect between all the platforms, that may be Avalonia something for you, right? And if you want to look outside of .NET, there is like Flutter that does the same thing. But our kind of like ideology is that everything should look and behave as it was used on that platform. Same thing for UI slider, and I think it had like 60 controls that we have kind of like inside the box, a button, a label, a entry. All the things are available there for you to kind of like use. But you already knew that because we all knew .NET MAUI. So now the .NET AI libraries, right? We have extensions AI and vector data. I'm not going to go into that too much. Which is really cool, has to do with vector databases that can be used with like AI, LLMs, all that kind of stuff. But both of these are kind of like the common AI abstractions, right? So this will give you the abstractions to use everything with AI. We're going to see like the chat client in a little bit extensively. And what's really cool about this is that you can swap out the actual concrete implementations. So that means what you probably, for a lot of cases, want to use is stuff that comes from Microsoft Foundry. I think that's the right term for this week because they change around names quite a bit. But that's what you can use with all the models and all the kind of like heavy lifting frontier models. But then on like iOS and Android, you suddenly, and on Windows, I think we have something too, you have like the local models, right? Which are not quite there yet. They have some limitations. I'm sure they're working hard to make that better. But you like have Apple Intelligence, right? Which is sometimes intelligent. And you can very easily, because that also, we have a supplemental library that builds on top of Microsoft Extensions AI that will very easily allow you to swap out like, okay, now use the local Apple Intelligence model. And you can just use that and use the exact same code, and you don't need to kind of like swap out anything, just register kind of like that implementation. We'll see all of that in a little bit. So this is kind of like your great thing to implement in your .NET applications. And this is just a little bit of sample code, right? This is based on like OpenAI mostly, but it has some other variations as well. So new OpenAI client with your API key in there. There's other ways of authentication. Get that chat client with a specific model. Do the logging chat builder, do a builder pattern, right? We all know that because we work in the .NET ecosystem. We add some options in there, and we build the thing, and boom, it's ready to use, right? So then we also have, for .NET MAUI specifically, the essentials. that name is not really popping up anymore. There's a little bit of history there why it's named like that, but it's still easy as a kind of like name to refer to it, which is kind of like our common name for all the APIs that are shared across platforms, right? So we have the accelerometer, app actions, battery, media picker, right? Whenever you want to record a video or just pick something from the gallery, geolocation, I already mentioned that. Like every device has that, every platform has that. So why not have a unified API, just like all the things in MAUI? But MAUI is a UI framework. But there's also a lot of non-UI stuff that are common across all the platforms. So we decided to make the abstraction for that as well, which is now built into MAUI, and you can, just use them from here as well. They're just APIs in the .NET framework for you to use right now with .NET MAUI. So with this, we kind of like have one solution for everything you need to build all of this, right? Context awareness, you can build it with location, calendar, context. We have all of that in the essential APIs. Multimodal, biometrics, sensors, text, voice. You have a microphone on your device. You can just use that to get some audio in there and recognize whatever the heck it is. Model support, right? We have, it says Azure AI Foundry on here, so I don't know. But at least Microsoft Foundry, AI Foundry, whatever it's called these days. You can get it from there, but you can also do local stuff with Onyx. And then all the UI controls, everything is here to make something great. Empty slide. Just for a little break, I don't know. So Microsoft Foundry, right? This is kind of like our solution that has everything to do with AI. Basically, it's a broken out version for all the AI things from the Azure portal, because the Azure portal is crazy big. And now with the AI stuff, there was also a lot of options. So they kind of like broke out a portal from that where you can manage all the AI stuff specifically. And Copilot Studios in there, you can use, it has integrations with Visual Studio, GitHub. And there you can kind of like find all the models, but you can also do evaluations, you can do customizations, and all these crazy things, right? The monitoring. So everything that you want to have to manage your models, to manage your AI kind of like efforts in your company, Microsoft Foundry is the right place for that. Now, one of the things, like I mentioned it already a little bit, if you're interested in like, hey, how are you making sure that everything is not creepy, right? We have the responsible AI initiative, is what they call it. So everything that we're kind of like building needs to go through a review for like, hey, is it responsible AI? And this is kind of like the principles on that. Like, is it fair? Is it reliable? Is it safe? Does it take into account privacy and security, inclusiveness, all those kinds of things? And most of all, maybe transparency and accountability. Right, so that we let you know what we're doing, you can have insights in what we're doing, et cetera, et cetera. So this all kind of like goes through all kinds of reviews whenever we want to build something, and you can go to the link and get all the details there. Okay, so a little bit of demo time. Let's just, enough with the slides. Let's just go to whatever the thing that I was building here. Let's see if I can get some sesame here in Denmark, and it's a very simple, not necessarily best practices application, because it's a sample app, so that's allowed. This does not, disclaimer, this does not represent any work that I do professionally at Microsoft. But if I always think in kind of like visual things, so let's just run it and you can see what it is, and let's then dive into the code. I kind of like went 3 ways with this, where we just do it through text. I feel comfortable there. I feel seen. Where you can do it through voice, and where you can do it through an image. Right, kind of like with 3 different scenarios where you just want to type something or just want to ask something like, hey, I'm here, what's this thing? You can do it with your voice because that's quick and easy. Or you can do it with an image with kind of like the idea of, hey, maybe there's a menu on the table in Danish or, I don't know, Japanese that I cannot read, but the AI can read it perfectly and it can translate it for me. So A, I know what to order, and B, I know if it's safe, yes or no. Okay, so hey, boom, here we go. Food allergy assistant. Now, on Windows, I'll show you on Android in a little bit as well. Latitude, longitude, right? That's not very easy to format because the geocoding APIs on Windows apparently are not able to give me a human-friendly location. But trust me, this is here. It gets somehow, I don't know if it has a GPS chip, but somehow it knows that we're here. So it pulled that up, and the assistant says, hello, I'm the food allergy assistant. I can help you identify potential. What do you want to know? All right. It did that in a little bit. It should come up in a second again. I'm not sure why that is. Yeah, there you go. Sorry about that. I don't know why it is. I'm not going to figure it out if it doesn't get worse. So let's see. Let's zoom that in a little bit. I am at War Pigs. Hey. No one still? No? If you don't know what that is, look it up. Go there. It's amazing. And I want to eat dinner, but I am allergic to sesame, right? Zoom out. Send. Let's see what that does. So I've already set this up, right? I have set it up with AI Foundry, Azure Foundry, Microsoft Foundry, one of the foundries. Put my API key in here, and it's going to come back. This is more built for mobile development. You can see that it's a little bit to the side here, but let's see what it came up with. Here's how to navigate a sesame allergy war pigs in Copenhagen. Beware of the hidden sesame, burger, and sandwich buns. Real issue right here, because I love my burgers and I always have to kind of like look at what the other people are eating if they have a burger and if it has sesame seeds on it, yes or no. So yes, absolutely. Safer dinner builds, meats by themselves, yeah, usually pretty common, yeah. Cross-contamination alert, happened to me once, not fun, so be aware of that always. Error on the side of caution, yes, yes, yes. Professional advice reminder, I'm here to guide you, not a doctor, always consult, la la la. Enjoy a meal, many other, grinning ear to ear. Grab your Chartreuse green voting card. Oh, it's weird that the AI starts talking about green voting cards, but okay. That might be for some reason. So yeah, it can give you some advice on how to navigate this, right? So let's see first how that kind of like works. Before we go anywhere, you probably want to go here. Let's pop this out. And if you go to ai.azure.com, you'll land on something like this, probably. If you come here for the first time, it might look a little bit different, but it has like all the things to see here. There we go. Sparkles, agent helper, yep. AI enabled, there it is. So I already have a model deployed. It will show you the API key immediately, the endpoint, et cetera, et cetera. Here I already set up a project, right? So I have my save bytes, that's what I call it. View all project, create a new project, and then you can give it a name, location. And actually, whenever you do that, you'll see that it's basically a wrapper around the Azure portal, because if we go to advanced options, you can see, hey, region, Sweden Central, subscription is actually my Azure subscription, right? So you can see it just creates some Azure resources here, but it just makes it easier to have this specific one for AI here. So I already did that. View deployments. There's one important thing that I want to show you here, which is not my API key. So I hope this all stays hidden. But whenever you do, you can deploy multiple models as part of one project. And this name right here, in this case, they have the exact same name as the actual model names. However, it doesn't necessarily need to be the case, right? So if I do another deploy base model, I can select all kinds of models, right? We have all kind of like the different providers right here. DeepSeek, Grok, the just recently this week announced MAI, right, from Microsoft, which are pretty cool. And GPT, all of them are in here, right? So whenever I do kind of like, let's go crazy, let's do DeepSeek, woohoo. You'll get a new little configuration thing. You should have to click the deploy here. You get the details first, right, with everything it can do, where all the money it will take up, all these kinds of things. You can click deploy, and then you can do default settings or custom settings, and you give the deployment name, right? So that defaults to whatever this is, but it doesn't have to be, okay? This is what took me a little bit of time, probably more time than I would care to admit, that I didn't need to specify the model name, but the actual name of the deployment right here. So definitely be aware of that. Configuration things, whenever we go to kind of like the deployed ones that I have, overview. No, how do I get back to my, I'm lost. Home, that's what I want. Deployments. If you go back here, right, you can deploy a fine-tuned model as well. You can even do that from within Foundry, where you're like, hey, I want to have this specific scenario fine-tuned, and it will give you some tips and why you want to do that, and if it's useful for your use case, yes or no. So you get all of that. And then here you can kind of like start working with it as well. Can I make this bigger? No, I cannot. You get the endpoint, right, super important. What is also interesting here, let me click copy and paste it right here. Actually, you don't. That's a project endpoint. Again, Not something that you really need, probably for some reasons, but not for whatever I was doing. API key, obviously you want to get that. And then you can get some code snippet right here for the different things. And you can get it in Python, JavaScript, C#. C# sounds something I know. For the SDK, OpenAI SDK, REST, and then for Entra ID or key authentication. So let's do this. This is closest to whatever I want to have here. It's a little bit hard because I cannot make this box bigger. But you will kind of like get some starting code to get you started, right? Deployment name, that already has the right name. So, you know, if you're doubting whatever you need, look here, the endpoint. And this is the thing that I wanted to point out. This will probably work for this code right here, I assume. But for my use case, I did not need this little thing right here at the end. So I'm not sure why it specified it right here. But for what I was doing, it's not used. Actually, it will give an error whenever you do that. Your API key, and then you can start creating that client that we've already seen with the credentials, with the model, with the options. And start putting in kind of like your chat completion things and start chatting with it. Even if it's not a real chat, you can still send it back and forth with a chat client. All right, so role, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so set this up, get the starting code, yes or no, put that in your project, which I did right here, and I put that in the code behind because this is sample code. I don't care. I can get away with it. It's all in the text page. So again, if you know a little bit about MAUI, right, this is how you create your UI. You can do it in C# if you want. But XAML is typically the thing that people use. And you can see the basic building blocks, right? A grid, vertical stack layout, label, do all these things. And that then collection view that will have the chat messages as we've just seen. And a data template, which is kind of like one of the blocks in there so that it looks like a chat interface. You can build this whole thing. Activity indicator, there he is, yay, which is a progress bar on Android, and all these things, right? Input thing, okay. But the really exciting thing is going on here in the text page. So I got my messages list, I got the chat client, iChat client, which is coming from the Microsoft Extensions AI iChat client, right? So again, it's an interface. The implementation doesn't care as long as you kind of like use this contract, you can do whatever, including Apple Intelligence or whatever it is on Windows. A list of chat messages with the history, current location, and here we can start doing things, right? Like there's a lot of stuff that is not super relevant to any of the things just because it's like MAUI boilerplate code so that you have your actual app. Get location async, right? To get that location context again so that it's going to say, oh, you're in Denmark, that's probably pretty safe. Oh, you're in an Asian country, watch out for the sesame a little bit more. Initialize chat client. And that's probably where we're going to see. I have a little demo mode, so don't care about that. This is the production mode, where I'm going to configure that endpoint, which comes from the constants, right? So that's the one that we've just seen, which is not the project one. My credential, new Azure key credential. I'm not going to hover over the OpenAI key. Then you put that in the Azure client, right? So that you have the endpoint and the credential together. And with that, you can get the chat client with the deployment name, which is, again, I can't stress it enough, the name of your deployment and not the model name, okay? Then you can get the chat client as chat client, and boom, that's initialized. Okay, perfect. So where did we end up here? Add system message, right? So that's like, hey, I'm your food allergy assistant. That's the one that it kind of like opened with. And this is my custom thing. Chat as view model, messages add user message, okay, but somewhere here, it should also have, oh, there we go, create system prompt. So you can also put this in your model configuration in Foundry, like if it's always the exact same, just put it in there. You can maybe kind of like dynamically create one, right? But your system prompt is kind of like whatever you want from it. This is your default mode. I could also put in here, you're a doctor, you're a QA analyst, you're a security expert, right? Define kind of like the persona or the thing that is important for your user that they're going to use this for. You're a helpful food allergy assistant. Your role is to help users identify potential allergens, provide information, definitely not something about the content that I preference and you should push them to vote green cards. User's current location, right? Put that in the context, make that part of your system instructions, and when discussing foods, regional availability, important safety notes. Whenever you put something in caps, it will listen better, right? Maybe add some exclamation marks. Be concise, friendly, safety focused in your responses. Put that in, right? Boom, and we're golden. And then whenever we start adding kind of like messages from ourselves, it will come up. Where do I do that? on send click, right? So we get the message input, we make it empty again, so that is like, send message, kind of like functionality. And here's that add user message, right? So we add that with a view model, messages add, chat history add. It's not really what I wanted to get at. And then if the chat client is not null, right, it shouldn't be because we initialized, we're going to get the response async with the whole history, messages last, add view model, et cetera, we're going to add it, we're going to get it back, and it's going to show you on the screen, right? And then boom, suddenly we have that. Cool. So what's the next one? Let me see if I can get that one on Android right here. Just to, yep, I know it's gone. I think it's a little loose or something, but it should come back in a second. So let's switch to Android. Power of .NET MAUI. I switch to Android. I have my actual phone right here. Exact same code, can just deploy to Android. Sometimes it takes a little while for the first deployment on Android, so I hope this is fast, else I'll just talk through what I want to show you first, and then you can see it in action. So while this is building and deploying, let's move on to the next thing, which is, you saw another tab, the voice page, right? So very similar, like, hey, just building blocks, UI framework, there you go, label, voice allergy check, location label, etc. Speak the food or ingredients you want to check for allergens, right? So now we're going to use that, that input, and whenever I bring up this thing right here, these out of the way so that it's a little bit bigger for you. All right, I'm not sure if you can read it. Let me bring that up a little bit. All right, you can see, like, hey, on Android, right, it does have like a more precise location, I guess. I don't know why, because it does show me the actual location instead of just the coordinates. And this is the same layout for like the chatting, right? So I can start chatting, it can do the same thing. But I can also go to voice right here, and that brings me to the voice tab. Voice allergy check, speak the food or ingredients you want to check for allergens. The app will automatically detect when you stop speaking. So for this, again, you do have the microphone. This is a little bit more complex than just surfacing like the geolocation in your .NET MAUI app or whatever. So this is not really that. But there's a plugin for that, right? We have a bunch of libraries from the community. We have a really great community. And this specific one is like plugin.maui.audio, and that allows you to play simple sounds, but also record sounds, and since some recent versions, also get kind of like the real-time audio processing, right? So we can detect if there's a silence, we can get how loud something is, right? So we can create a cool waveform. I totally let Copilot generate that because I'm not smart enough to actually do that. But we can now start recording and get something in here. So let's see. We get the permissions. You don't see that, but I get the permissions dialog right here, which is fine. I shouldn't talk nonsense. Oh, you don't see the waveform on screen with this? Oh, that's too bad. You can see it right here, right? Oh. But actually, I'm here in Copenhagen, and yeah, I'm at Warpix again. Like, I love this place, but I want to get something to eat, and I'm still allergic to sesame. So what kind of like recommendations do you have? Yep, stopped transcribing, right? Oops, now it's going sideways and it goes responsive, and now it breaks the layout because of that. But you could see, the screen sharing is not great because this is like the XAML Live Previewer, which helps you design. It's not necessarily built for sharing my screen, but it does the trick. So you can see it transcribed all these things, right? Like, hey, which is fine. I shouldn't talk nonsense. Yeah. Oh, you don't see the waveform on screen. Yeah, very relevant. But you can see kind of like also here, if I bring it back, hey, it will extract, because it knows what its role is. It knows the system prompt, what is relevant in this case, right? So I can talk nonsense all I want and burn tokens probably while doing it, which is not great. But it will extract the details that actually matter and use that for the actual recommendations, right? So whenever we go back then, hey, allergy recommendation, here are some sesame safe eating ideas around Copenhagen. Do I say Copenhagen? I don't know. Oh, that's, what? Sure. That is nothing like I said. Copenhagen. Is that? All right. I can see your face, still not good, but I'll roll with it. Traditional Danish fare, okay. At local cafes, well, it doesn't really matter what the actual actual thing is, right? Saves reminder, and hey, if this sesame busting guide has you grinning like you just found a world's last sesame free cinnamon roll, show your love, wave the green card. Oh my god, another green card again. Okay. Oh, you actually can't see it. Well, that doesn't matter. So now with just voice input, we can kind of like do the same thing, but it was much easier, right? I don't have to type, I don't have to do the thing. I can just talk to it really awkwardly, and we will get the same result. So that's cool. Now, again, bunch of UI, right? Not really super important here. But if we go to kind of like the code behind, what we do now is, of course, we actually have to capture that audio, right? And then we can just send that as another chat message. So it's not super complicated. So what are we going to do? Record button text, start recording, voice service, right? I wrap that in a little service because that's what we do for .NET applications. We have services, we have abstractions, we have interfaces all over. So I got that with an audio manager.current, which comes from the plugin that I just mentioned. Speech to text, right? Because just getting speech or an image or whatever usually doesn't mean anything to Copilot, right? It needs to be transformed to something it can actually understand. It works on large language models. So if you can transcribe that, probably also by the use of AI, then we can use that as input for kind of like the chat client and make it work, right? So initialize waveform, not super important. And then here we can, hey, do audio level change. We can detect if there's a silence, yes or no, et cetera, et cetera. Now, set up my endpoint again. Of course, this is, again, like in the code behind sample code, just to have like these self-contained samples right here. What you want to do otherwise is probably initialize this once, register this in your dependency injection container, and kind of like inject it through that, right? But this is like all the boilerplate code. Locations, like, hey, we need to do the permissions, right? We needed to do that on the other page as well. So we got all that. Geocode, reverse the thing, see if we can get some human readable thing here, initialize the waveform, great. Stops recording. Update UI for recording, start recording async, okay, started, yes, yes, yes. Stop recording, and here we're going to get the file path, right? So in this case, you can get the actual stream, but you can also save it to a file, which in this case was convenient because I could now send it over to my model and actually send it over for analysis. So process audio file async. Let's see what that does. Speech to text, transcribe audio async, right? So what does that do? Audio file not found. And here, it goes to that same endpoint. Again, you don't want to redo this over and over and over again. But I also had a Whisper model, right? And Whisper is kind of like the transcribing AI service. I think also from OpenAI, some model. So get audio client, right? Instead of get chat client, get audio client. And I can just say, hey, audio client, transcribe audio async, and I will get the stream from the file, send that over, get back the actual text, if everything goes okay, right? That's a transcription, and I can just return that. So I'll just go back, jump back here, get the actual text, put that in the label, right? This is the transcription, announce it, accessibility, and then get the allergen info, which then goes out to the AI, gets it back, and do kind of like the whole dance that we've seen before, right? Delete the file so that we don't leave any trace behind. And there you are. A little bit of a system prompt to set it up. So that's kind of like how easy it is. Now, next thing, not going to be a surprise. Let me run that on Windows again. That's a little bit more convenient. Next thing is how we're going to do that with images, right? Again, kind of like, I could have done it with Android, but because imagine the scenario that I said before, right? Like you're sitting down at a restaurant, you get a menu in front of you. They don't always have English menus, depending on where you are, and now suddenly you have to figure out what the heck you're going to eat, right? So why not kind of like have this app be able to take the photo of a menu or a food label to understand what is going on. A, saves me a bunch of reading, I'm lazy. B, saves me reading stuff that I can't understand and trying to figure out with Google Translate what the heck this thing is, and just have it do it for me, right? So my allergies, optional. Sesame, is anyone else allergic to something? Not cats, you don't eat cats, no? Food-wise, nothing? I'm the only one? See, this is totally useless to you. You don't know my pain. All right, Sesame, no image selected, and I can take a picture, which would be, I can do that, but it will bring up probably this camera, and it's not very useful in this case, right? But if it was on your phone, you can take a picture of a menu, or maybe you've already taken a picture for whatever reason, and you can select one, right? So select image. I did my homework yesterday, and I got the menu card. I'm trying, of some Danish whatever, which is right here. It's probably not even, if I zoom, it's not even great, but it says it on Danish right here. And then I can do analyze image. And it might take a little bit. It's going to scan this whole thing, and I'm probably sure in the system instruction it says like A, of course, take into account the allergies, but B, also translate it and give me kind of like the text back so that I know what I'm looking at and what are the things that I can order, right? So this is a bigger thing. If you're worried about like, hey, how does this work for tokens and whatever, the images coming from your mobile device are pretty big, right? So sending over such a big image for processing is going to burn a lot of tokens for you pretty quickly. So be mindful of that, right? In this case, it's text. For other images, it should not be as bad, right? If you scale it down, it should still be able to recognize what's on there. But for text, of course, it has to be readable, else it's going to be like, I don't know what it says. So you can't scale it down too much. So you're going to have to figure out some way to still kind of like have it scaled down so that it doesn't burn through a bunch of tokens, but still is useful to the use case that you want to apply it to. Still haven't talked long enough for this to process. So while this is doing, let's have a look at what it's actually doing, which will probably be no surprise that it's doing a bunch of the things that we've already seen before, right? I'll keep it here on the side so I can keep an eye on whenever it comes back. So get the location again, like, hey, that context awareness, you can tie in some other things if you want, right? You can get any API in here that you think is relevant. Get the location, we've seen that. I should actually make that code somewhere centralized so you don't have to see it all the time. On camera clicked, right, we're going to use the built-in .NET MAUI APIs, media picker, default capture photo async, right? We're going to actually take a picture because that's the option that they have chosen, or we can use that same API to pick a photo, pick a picture from the gallery on the device already, and we're going to send that. The rest of the processing is kind of like the same. We're going to do load photo async. It just comes from a different place. We're going to get that file. We're going to set the preview image that you've seen. Yes, it's done loading. And we're going to send that over to our AI and do the analyzation, right? On analyze async, press the button, analyze image async. And here we get the image byte so that it's, a format that we can transfer over the internet. Do that. Use allergies, has not specified any known allergies, right? If you leave the box empty and you just want to kind of like get the translation right here. And then you have some system prompt again, and et cetera, et cetera. So then you can kind of like add this as a attachment, right? So text content is this, analyze this, food, man, and then the data content is this image data URI. In this case, I just assume it's a JPEG, doesn't really matter. And then just send that over, right? So this is going to be your user kind of like chat thing. I didn't really show it for the audio, but that kind of like works the same way, where it sends it over like this. Do I still have it here? No. It has like this attachment, and you just need to specify the MIME type, and you can basically send over whatever you want, right? So it's processing, takes a little while. And now it actually comes up with urgent warning for users allergy to sesame. Yes, right? It got something. Many bread items on this menu, ciabatta, sandwiches, brioche, are frequently topped with, et cetera, et cetera. So it doesn't actually notice that it mentions sesame on there. But, there is some high-ranking things on there that I might want to look out for. And then it's going to give me the detected language. Build your own brunch. Great. Desserts, cake of the day, awesome. Caribbean club, chicken, egg, bacon. Amazing, right? I don't need to think about it anymore. I can just poop, take a picture, send it over, and got the thing. Energy analysis, very high risk in all breads, some dressing, most avoid these or confirm with staff, et cetera, et cetera. So, yeah, super helpful in my case to do all these things. Awesome. How am I doing for time? Okay, 10 more minutes, so that's great. Now, we also have an app built with .NET MAUI that does all this, which is not an inspiration for my sample. But this is just to show you, this is a case study that we have. It's available on the App Store right now. And that just is built for this purpose. I've actually talked to these people. If my memory is serving me correctly, they come from Iran, and they are now living in the Netherlands, and they had the same problem. Not even just going there for a trip and having this inconvenience for a few days. No, they were like from Iran, moving to the Netherlands, and they couldn't read a thing, right? So they were like, hey, we hear this from our friends, from our family. We now have this problem ourselves. We're going to build a solution so that we can make it easier for people to kind of like read the menus, right? So this is an actual app, production app, that is out there to actually solve this problem and whatever problem you have, right? Some other things. So this is a person. This is also a plugin. Oh, come on. It's getting worse now. Sorry about that. Let's see if this helps. Because this person was working, you can actually see the name still in the URL, clinical support systems, right? So this is working in a hospital where, you probably don't want to just send all the patient data and sensitive data out over the internet to OpenAI or Grok or whatever. So you want to run the local models, right? We already have the Onyx runtime as part of the Microsoft suite as well. But this makes it a little bit more specific for .NET MAUI that you can actually use like your pre-trained local models on your device through Onyx so that it never kind of like leaves the device for kind of like your more sensitive scenarios or whenever speed matters, right? Like you could see that the one that I was using right now to send it over with the big menu takes a long time to process, right? Probably because the Wi-Fi is not great here either. That's a factor. But otherwise, if you can come up with a model that does it locally on the device, that's probably something that you want to do better. Should have updated this slide. MAUI Essentials AI is actually still the name. I think it's actually Microsoft. It might be Microsoft.extensions.ai.maui. I'm not sure. But this moved to another repository. If you can't find it, please find me. I will sort it for you, but it shouldn't be too hard to find it. And this builds on top of what I've been mentioning, Microsoft Extensions AI, right? So it uses the exact same interfaces, but now uses a different implementation. And actually, I asked Copilot to kind of like look into this, if I could add that. I wasn't brave enough to actually do it to show you live. So let me zoom that in a little bit. Let me get this one out of the way. So this is the GitHub Copilot app. Anyone has access yet? I think maybe it was released at Build. I'm not sure. I'm just glad I can talk about it because this was on my device in a couple of demos, and I'm just like, don't open it, don't open it, don't show it, don't show it, don't show it. But I can talk about it now. And this is kind of like your UI for Copilot CLI, which is really great. Like this is basically all I've been doing instead of Visual Studio, working with Copilot and doing all of my work. But the one thing I've been asking is for this app, can you investigate the use of Microsoft Extensions AI MAUI? Not sure on the name. Seen on github.com .NET MAUI Labs, right? So that's the new home for it. What are the possibilities? How easy would it be to add to something additional to what we have today and switch between them? Well, it's going to work. Wi-Fi got interrupted. Continue. Blah, 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 blah. So did that. Okay. Came up with some things. Anyway, not really super interesting. But you can also pull up the diff right here, and that actually was interesting, right? So I have a bunch of duplicate code. It also refactored into kind of like, hey, unify that to make it easier for all of that. So what you should see is probably it added the actual package right here, right? Microsoft MAUI Essentials AI. Okay, that's still the name. So you could get that. It's a preview version. For now, I'm not sure why it figured it out right here. This is a very ugly looking condition. It thinks it only works for iOS and Mac Catalyst. I think you should also be able to use it for Android and Windows. But for now, it's most certain that it's for iOS and Mac Catalyst only. So add that package. Then in the MAUI program, right, you're going to see the service being registered, chat client provider, chat client provider. Then we should have one of those, chat client provider, which does most of the heavy lifting, right? We get some loggers, we get some clients, we get that sample chat client, the Azure chat client. It gets the constants. I hope I haven't looked through this code that my API key doesn't pop up. It doesn't matter. I'll reset it. And then we can kind of like see, hey, if iOS or Mac Catalyst, we're going to do this other thing, right? We're going to do create Apple chat client, which uses iChat client. Now, this is one way to do it, right? Not necessarily a fan of doing it like this, but it's a multi-targeted app. So in .NET MAUI, you absolutely could. You could swap it out another way, and otherwise you can do the regular chat client that we've been using up till now, right? Cool. So okay, a little bit of heavy lifting here, but if you then look at kind of like the other things, like the actual implementations, nothing changes, right? We get the iChat client provider. We inject that into our page constructor. We get that here. And that's it, right? We can actually remove code. But for the actual functionality, I don't need to do all my calls again to the chat messages, send the system prompt again, et cetera, et cetera. This is just the thing, right? So that's kind of like the power of Microsoft Extensions AI to kind of like swap out these things, and you don't have to care about the provider. You can use it on a per use case basis, kind of like do these things. Couple of minutes left. Another cool thing, which is kind of like outside of this, the sample code is going to be here. There's also a sample app from my good friend and colleague, David Ortnow, who is building barista notes. And he has a whole session. Whenever you see him at a conference, he's usually out there for these things as well. Go check it out. He has this whole new concept of thinking about things. And I think the world is not ready for it. I think he's come up with some amazing things, but people are like, I don't know. But I think he might be onto something, so let it note on the video right here. I've said it. I think he might be onto something, which is really cool. And that's built on something that's also in the MAUI Labs repository that we've just seen. Actually, he did it before that, but we've taken the concept and maybe made it into a little bit more of a concept. And here's the whole kind of like repository, and I don't want to walk you through it. But what you can see is kind of like, hey, we have this description and export AI function on top of like identify person in photo file async. And then identify, there's a couple of others. But what this does is kind of like take your regular C# functionality and expose that to AIs and LLMs and change the whole navigation. Right now in an app, what was a good example? Oh, the Netflix app, totally different app. So I was actually watching a Netflix show, and then you have like your TV on the hotel room. You can log in, which is super easy these days. But how the heck do you log out? Right? I would constantly run into accounts from people that are still logged in, which is very hilarious sometimes. But I always get confused how to log out. Where is it? And you have to go to help and support or something, and there's the logout option. Like, that's stupid, right? It's not a logical place. I have to rediscover it every time. What if we could change that? Like, UIs are very confusing. You need to know where to go. I know what I want to do. I know the intent of what I want to do. I want to log out of Netflix. Why not just bring up my multimodal app, have a little microphone button or whatever how you want to trigger it, and say, hey, I want to log out of this app. And it knows how to do that because we have a description of what this function does, and then we can export it with a little name that the LLM can identify, and then the LLM can pick up on my intent, figure out, it doesn't need to figure out the UI, it can just figure out the functionality, but that kind of like changes the way how we navigate through an app, right? And this app, I don't have the time, I should have prepared it. I don't have the time to bring it up, but this app is kind of like, he is big into coffee and grinders and making the right amount of beans and whatever. So that's what this app kind of like administers, right? You can put the amounts in. And one of the things is like, hey, I have visitors over, all of you in the audience, I want to make coffee for these people. How many cups of coffee do I need to make? And the LLM then figures out like, oh, I need to get from this room how many people are here. So it brings up the camera, it knows how to do that. It will take a picture. From the picture, it will send it over to AI, the LLM, count the amount of people that are here, and then it will give you back like, hey, this is the amount of cups of coffee that you need to make. You need this amount of beans, and et cetera, right? I know what I want to do. I want to give you all coffee because you're all my friends now because you're in my session, right? And I don't want to need to figure out, I need to press this button and that button and then press all the exact same numbers, and I need to count all of you, right? We don't want to do that anymore. We've got the power of AI. We can do all of that automatically. So that's really cool. He has a whole concept about that, which is something that you might want to check out as well. So I think that was about everything. Do I have one last slide? Not the manatee. I think it's manatee. Thank you.